I hope you're ready to meet some monsters today. I'm Dave Makes Noises, and today we're asking our subreddit, D&D Players of r/MrRipper, what were some times where you realized a player was just as evil as their evil character? Part 1. I'll go first. I played with this guy called Eddie, who would frequently play good-aligned characters, yet whenever he encountered an NPC who had even the slightest divergence from purity, Eddie would attempt to kill them, usually failing miserably. He even kidnapped a child because he didn't like her father because he yelled at them, and killed the poor guy when he attempted to save his daughter from Eddie's character. Now, I'm fine with people who play evil characters, but Eddie made his characters lawful good every time, so I once talked to the guy and said that his characters weren't what I would call lawful nor good, and he started explaining in a matter-of-fact tone that his character's actions were 100% justified. He agreed with killing a shopkeeper for checking out a girl. He agreed with literally smiting another player and kicking them down the stairs because they cast a harmless illusion spell to prank them. And he agreed with kidnapping a child because her father yelled at them to stay away from his daughter. He wouldn't back down from defending his character's actions as if they were his own. I eventually stopped playing with the dude. He had a bunch of toxic traits, but most notably being manipulative, but that's another story. Here's a story from the first game I ever attempted to DM over Discord. It also happened to be my first time DMing ever, and in a completely homebrew setting that I made. Being new to the experience, I had no sense of how to control or restrict my players with their character builds. As a result, I ended up with this one lady who insisted on using a random overpowered race she found on the internet that was called zombie, but was more like an invincible Draugr. The setting was a tropical island where the players had been shipwrecked after a kraken destroyed their ship, which Zombie Girl insisted be hers that she was captaining with her entire undead crew all under her control. I should also note that the player's real-life boyfriend was also in the game as an elven diplomatic scholar who had stowed away on the ship. Early in the game, the players came across a group of shipwrecked pirates who were initially very hostile, but the elf managed to calm them down and convince the pirates that the party wasn't in league with the crazy island kraken-worshipping cultists. The captain offered to deal with everyone, and the party was willing to go along with it except for Zombie Girl because apparently both player and character were hardcore feminists who refused to cooperate with any man. She held the game at a standstill until her boyfriend's character offered himself to be her bitch and allow her to truly mess with him in an abusive relationship. This was said between the players in such a way that it made me very concerned about the implications for their real-life relationship. I had initially planned to make this an entire campaign, but after that point I just got them off the island and pretended it had been a short one-shot the whole time because I knew I wouldn't be able to last DMing a party with people like this. So this happened the first campaign I ran. I had recently reconnected with an old friend from middle school since we are both stuck in our hometown. I had just started getting really into D&D and wanted to DM, so I invited him and a few other friends to play. The others were fine and not relevant to the story. My estranged buddy made a dragonborn rogue that was chaotic evil. He was a bit of a murder hobo, but did it in a smart way, so no red flags our whole time playing. After the campaign wrapped up, it came out that he had sexually assaulted a girl he went to high school with at a party. Not really evil, just neutral asshole. One of the PCs was the DM's girlfriend, and it was obvious that there was a lot of nepotism going on. She was stacked with so many homebrew items made just for her. I'm talking about special ghost blades, non-metal that her druid could use, to a magic wand that not only allowed her to cast extra druid spells every day, but also lowered her armor class. Also, bad guys would never attack her first if another PC was an option. Anyways, one day me and another player tried to address the situation and told the DM that he was being biased and not impartial. He looked at the table for a second, then he looked at us and said, "Well, if you want to have sex with me every night too, I can give your character some more stuff. I'm a dude, and my DM and I aren't gay." So we left it at that. The DM kind of started getting better, but now we have a running joke. Whenever someone gets a cool new item, we all laugh. I wonder how we got that item. So, a rather short answer, but I've always had an interest in D&D and started DMing about a couple years ago. The first time I've ever DM'd only lasted a single session. I was DMing for my mom, little sister, and older brother. But my brother was an absolute power gamer that throws a shit fit unless I give him special treatment. After spending all day arguing with him, I finally gave up on it, letting him use his own homebrew monstrosity, the Who-Rask, an unholy hybrid of a human and Tarrasque. Apparently. His race scarred the living shit out of everything and tore down any buildings he went into, along with being OP with nearly maxed out stats at level 1. As if that wasn't enough to put a dampener on any plans I had, he also decided a few minutes in to murder all of his party mates. First game I've ever ran, also turned out to be the shortest game I've ever ran. One of the PCs in our game was actually evil. Castor was a wizard, and he was a legit psychopath. He was very charming and had a ridiculously high charisma and wisdom score. He would steal things from us at night, like gold or magical items, and come up with the most ridiculous lies, and we'd believe him. At one point, he was actually slowly poisoning another PC so that he could steal her magic object. They were like the gloves of opalescence, but it was a fedora because, yeah. I think this was before the gloves were a thing, and I don't remember what this object was called, so for my sanity, we'll call them the gloves. We knew literally nothing about this guy besides the fact that his whole family was dead. In actuality, they had been killed by his brother by accident, and then Castor killed his brother in revenge, and after that he snapped. He went crazy because of trauma, and developed a sort of second personality that took control in dangerous situations, and used violence as a coping mechanism. When we originally met, there was still a little part of the real Castor left, because he would come out around us, but we didn't know. By the time we realized this Castor was gone, the altar convinced him the whole world was dangerous and nobody would ever forgive him for spilling his own family's blood. He believed him and was so broken that the real Castor just faded away. We finally realized something was wrong when we were at a pub just having fun when an NPC asked Castor if he knew a Reynolds Root, which was his brother. He said, "Yeah, that's me." We all shrugged it off as him being suspicious of her. He excused himself from the table and left with this woman. He returned a short while later, all scuffed up and alone. You can guess what we assumed happened, so this also went unnoticed. Then a few days later, Castor and another PC left, and when they returned, Castor was really angry and demanded we leave right away. The PC who was with him said he'd seen a sign and torn it down. Our rogue decided to try and pickpocket him, and she retrieved a crumpled up paper. It was a missing poster for the barmaid. This freaked us out, but we decided to play it cool. When Castor realized the poster was missing, he started freaking out and destroyed the room looking for it. He eventually realized we had it, and he locked us in the room. He told us that the barmaid was a succubus who was baiting him with the idea of knowing a friend of his brother's. For the first time since we'd known him, we knew he was lying because he was freaked out. That night, we got him to calm down enough for him to allow us to go to the bar. Instead, we searched around the bar and found the barmaid dead. When he realized we weren't in the bar, he stormed outside and did this whole evil monologue and threatened to torture us to death. At this point, he was an enemy, and he managed to escape during our scuffle. A few sessions later, the player returned. On the same day, we had planned to take over a catacomb that was being used by a noble to raise his daughter from the dead. This noble sucked. He abused his daughter to the point she died, and as he had no heirs, he needed her alive. This noble had just happened to meet Castor just after his protector was formed, and the noble took advantage of Castor's weakened state. He promised his dead daughter as a bride for Castor, and with his protection, nobody would know the terrible things he did to his brother. The protector thought this was a great idea, and Castor became his puppet. Before we met Castor, we'd bought the gloves Castor was trying to steal for a large sum of money. When we bought them, we were told someone was already bidding, and we paid 2 times that. They needed the gloves to keep her corpse fresh or something. I don't really remember. So yeah, this was like 5 years ago. Maybe I don't remember much. We don't usually have evil PCs. It's usually just a bunch of crazy nerds who had too much caffeine trying to expel that chaotic energy through chaotic characters. Greetings, evildoers. If you could please take a break from twirling your pencil-thin, evil twirly mustaches, I'd like to thank you for setting your dastardly machinations aside for a few minutes and joining us to the very end of this video. If you had a player character who outlined how evil the player was, please leave a comment below, or we could make small talk. That's always fun too. If you have another story you'd like to share with us, please share it with our official subreddit, r/MrRipper, where we check every week for stories to highlight here on the channel. As well, if you would like to join us on a Sunday for our storytime stream, you can request that we narrate your story live. And if you'd like to hang out with us as we dungeon all the dragons, we are live every Saturday over at Fire and Dice. If you're a DM or a player looking for a group, check out MrRipper's Group Finder Discord server, where over 3,000 gamers might have a spot for you at their table. If you are curious about the noises Dave makes, you can find me, Dave Makes Noises, on TikTok at Dave Makes Noises. Haha. I hope this week that you practice something that you are passionate about for at least an hour a day. Thank you so much again for watching. Please sub for Nat 20s and ding that dong to join the early squad and flex your punctuality on all the haters. We love you so much here at Rip Daddy's house. Have a lovely week and we'll see you next time.